Right, good evening, folks. Right, we had a bit of an issue the other night. You probably can tell. What I've done is I recorded the session which covered this side of the face, but actually it didn't record. So I'm just going to go over it, but don't panic because we've got this side to do, and the techniques we use on this side are exactly the same as that side. Okay, so let me just try and get this focused right for you. There we go. Um, let's have a look, see if we can zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so this bit here will need darkening up a little bit. I mean, as I say, this looks lighter on screen than what it is actually in front of me. Um, so we can darken it up a little bit. This bit here is very dark. So let me just briefly go through what I did on the video that didn't record, but we'll be doing the same on here. The difference is this side of the face is going to be a lot darker. But we put base layers on of a warm grey one and a cool grey one, which I put on basically all over the face. I did it in sections, but it went over everywhere. And then I started to use warm greys. So like warm grey 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 to build up the softness. So around the top of the head here, you've got where the light hits the head as it turns over. So obviously we've got some greys there. I will be adding some on now. And then obviously as well to show like the real deep shadows around the side of the head and the face. So this is going to be really dark. So we need to add some more to that. There's a few dark patches there. And then I did a bit of negative and left some of the light areas for underneath the eye and for around the brow. And as I say, the top of the head. And this bit here is a bit lighter and it's got a bit more of a blue tint to it. You can also see there's a little bit of pink showing there. I don't know if you can see it, if I fetch it up a little bit. There's a little bit of it's sort of a purpley color because the face is it's quite warmly shaded. So that's what we did. And then I did some glazing over the top of like I said, some of the reddy color. And we also put a few blues in there and a few browns. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go over using the colors that we have used and just go over another layer on here that should then be dark enough, and we can go over to this side, which is going to be darker. So what colors I'm going to put on now or what I put on underneath, but I have just layered it and layered it and layered it. So I do apologize as to why it hasn't recorded. But because I hadn't done the other side of the face, it's luckily I can sort of go through it with you from there. So let's find all the warm greys and the black. Right, so I've got warm grey 2, warm grey 3, warm grey 5, warm grey 6. There is a 4 as well, is there? That's the dark sepia as well. I've also got the black, and I've also got some burnt umber that I might be putting over the face as well. Okay. We'll take a look though as we go on with that. And also there's a little bit of the indigo to go on some of the top of the head because that is quite significantly lighter. Okay, so I'll start with the warm grey 2, the lightest tone. And as I say, keep checking your reference. So I'm doing smallish first strokes there. I'm coming out of the dark and into there. And then as I come into the lighter area, just relieve some of the pressure because it's very light here, but the rest of it does start to come down here into a little bit darker area. This section isn't quite as dark as this because this is the start of the muzzle area. So I'm going to put some of this on here. Okay. And then we'll finish that when we put some more of the base layers down. Also, I'll put a little bit of that on here. Also, there. So everywhere where there's a light area that you can see, I am going to put in another light layer of the warm grey too, and that should blend some of these colours that we've got here. Okay, as it comes down here, that's a little bit lighter. Okay, into this lighter area here. So basically, this is where I put all of, I mean, the base layers are underneath the darker areas as well. And then if you look at your reference here, as it's coming up, the nose, the bridge of the nose, we have got some broken darker colour. So I will just, so if you see, all we're doing is putting a few. So when you come into the lighter area, you release your pressure and you just put some strokes, but not as close together. Okay. Yeah, and I'm just darkening up this. So always look for where the darkest areas are on the dog. And then I'm going to come up there, but not quite to the top. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to fade that into the top with some of the warm grey 6 and 5, just to make it blend that little bit more. And as we come here, it curls a little bit there. That's what I say, you've got to make sure you look, because it curls over and then goes more or less straight into this very dark shadow here. Okay, so I'm going to come out of this dark shadow and then curve it. So that gives you the shape of the dog's face, basically. So I've released the pressure. So I put some of the darker, so I put a bit of black on where the darker areas and the shadows go, which is here. And we put some shadows there. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to pick up the warm grey 6. So this is quite a strong pigment, but it's not quite as, let me change the, down just a slight fraction. Looking, you can see there it looks a bit brown, but it's not, it's the way of the light. I don't know why. It's let me just see if I can adjust this light. A bit better, it's not as brown. So okay, so I'm putting on this dark grey, that warm grey 6, and I'm coming from the dark shadow with small light pressure strokes. Okay, and I want to keep coming round till we come up to there. Okay, that comes a little bit further down here. And then at the top of the darkest colours, I've got some of this colour so that it blends into, you can see it's getting a little bit darker now, so that's what we want. And that goes into the, so I go in and out from the dark shadow. So you can see a slight difference, so it's not all the same colour. And this is where we're creating, the layers are creating depth. So I'm going to come around here. Now this is a little bit darker here. So I'll put a little bit more pressure on here to that corner. Okay. And then this is the shadow up here. So now I'm going to come out and again, watch how the hair or the fur shapes round his head. So it's light layers coming from the dark to this lighter area here. And then here, if you look, to get the angle right. That sort of comes and it comes down here like that. It's a little bit darker. So I'm just fading it on each side. So I'm putting less pressure on each side. But if you look, that will fade that in. There's a little bit of shadow on this side. Comes down like that. And then that goes up. We've got a light area here. So just release your pressure as you go into the light area. Then we've got sort of a thinnish line here, which shapes, if you look at your reference, it's got a bit of a, if you look, it's a roundish. So again, we're thinking about the top of the head going round. So we'll just like that. And then at the top, this is more or less blurred. It's not quite in focus because that's the top of his head, but it is lighter. So I want to do that. And then I'm going to put in, I'm actually going to put in a little bit of blue glaze as well. So I'm using the side of the pencil for this because it's, like I say, it's not a lot of detail. It's more the shape. Okay. And then, as I say, I used this red violet, or you could use a burgundy or whatever color, but you don't want it too strong because, as I say, what I did, I used the side of the pencil and literally extremely light, so I'm hardly touching that paper, and I've just put a little bit of it where you can see, and it's mainly in the lighter areas where you can see that there is a reddish tone to it. There's a little bit of a red blush there, comes around there, and on that side there. Okay, so it's not much, it's on the side of the pencil and very lightly. And then I'm going to do the same with the indigo up here. I'm using the side of the pencil and where the lighter areas are. I'm just going to put a little bit of, and there's quite a bit of blue in here as well. And then just there, I put a little bit of the blue and that light area there. And over the pink area, you can also add another little bit of the blue, just glaze it. But make sure you're going in the same direction as the fur. Now, indigo, dark indigo in the darker areas, if you put it there, it does give it a little bit more substance and a bit more depth. So anywhere where you see the colour should be a lot darker, just glaze some of this indigo blue, dark indigo, over the top. Okay. So this bit here is quite a bit darker. So for that, I'm just going to use the Derwent black. I've got the Raven black. So I'm just going to add another layer of the Raven black. And this is coming down the side of this face, the dog's face, and down the side of his muzzle. And here it's quite dark. So I'm just going to get that so that when we move on to this area, I have got the darkness that I need. And then that goes up here. And if you look, he's got a bit of shadow. You can see it's coming out the side. So always keep checking your reference photo. Always. My head's backwards and forwards. And sometimes when I finish, I've got like a headache. But anyway. And then there's a shadow up there, but it's not quite as dark as this shadow here. And that one fades into there. Okay. Let me see if I can get this lighting right, because you're not seeing it quite. Just one moment. A little bit better. Okie dokie. So, and then down this side of the face and the neck as it's coming round here. It's quite dark. Now, there is quite a straight edge there where the ears overlapping, but you can see how dark it's going to be getting. And then, as I say, that's the dark part. There's a little bit of a dark part there, and then this is the dark part as well. But there's a little bit of light here. And then here, I've just sort of feathered it off because we've got some light. There will be some light coming into this. Okay. So the light areas are still looking a little bit too light. So I'm going to go in with the warm grey 5. And very light, I'm just going to put in, I'm just sort of coming out from the darker area into the lighter area and then back into this top area here. And I'm just going to, I don't want to, I'm doing very light pressure because I'd rather put an extra layer on to get the tone right than go in too dark to start with. Okay. So can you see how that now is toning that area? I'm going to tone it down a little bit so it's not quite as bright. Okay. And the same up here. So just have a look. Now that is a lot brighter than these. So just have a look. Tonal difference. And just push the pigment in and round. And then as it's getting into a lighter area, just release your pressure a little bit. So down here, it's slightly lighter than the muzzle is going to be a lot lighter. Okay, so that's about it for this side. That tone right there. Fetch that bit in to the lighter area. Okay, so that's now starting to look tonally right. There is this bit here that's where the light's catching it, and that is quite light. So okay, so I'll let you catch up with that, and then I'll be back. And what we'll do is we will continue and do this side of the face, and then you'll see properly how I've done it. Okay. Well, let's have a look. Okie dokie, right. As I say, I've got my reference here. I always have it on at the side of me on my tablet so I can zoom in and out. So if you're able to do that, that'll be quite valuable. Right, with the dark sepia, I'm just gonna, so this bit here, I'm gonna darken this bit up a little bit. It's quite warm. Okay. Many little places where you think you may have missed or a bit dark in there. There are some little shadows here where we've got some. Okay. So I'm just tidying things up a little bit. I don't know if you can see when I pull it in. It is quite a bit darker than what you're seeing there. I don't think get to look any darker, but it is darker when I look at it. So it's okay. But if you just keep looking at your reference and just you'll see for yourself. I mean, I've put quite a lot of layers on here. So, you know, it is quite dark. But also remember that, I mean, like here, sorry about the reflection of the light, but here we've got this dark, there's a dark area there. Then you've got this area here, but it's not quite as dark as that. And that's what you've got to look for. You've got the darkest tones, your lightest tones, and then you've got all these little mid-tones in between. So, and you'll keep making adjustments with the mid-tones. And once you adjust the mid-tones, you'll find that you'll be darkening up some of the light tones and probably some of your dark tones as well. Okay, so it's just a matter of working working from light to dark if you can. And then once you've got your darkest tones established, then obviously you're working the rest of the tones from there. Okay. And on animals, as we say, that you don't have jagged edges as such. I mean, okay, we've got a bit of an edge here, but by pulling the pencil in and lightening the pressure off as we go across the lighter area, it'll look a lot more blended, which is what we're looking for. It's a bit of the skin where the light's caught it. Some of them have like some bits of puppy fat or whatever, and the light will catch it. And like here, the folds in the ear, and then you'll get where the light catches it, and you get the dark shadow bits as well. Which and all this helps create, you know, realism and the shapes, and you can see the shapes and bends and everything in the dog's ear. So here we've got just on this flap, this is a flap where his ears turned round, the edge of his ears turned round a little bit. So we've got a dark shadow there, but then we don't want it as a straight line. So to blend it in, what we do is we use light pressure off the top of there and just lift it as we go into the lighter section. So here, so that's the darker area, and then just lift it off as we go into this lighter section just here, and do that all the way around. Okay, and we've got quite a bit of light in those areas there, but down here, this is where it starts to darken again, but not quite as dark as the darkest areas. Okay, so it's about getting your tone. So you want shape, tone, and the more layers you put on, the more depth you've got, and also the colors as well. The more, you know, if you've got more colors in there, you will get, you know, more saturation. You will get a lot more depth in the actual dog, bringing him to life. Okay, so I'm just going to go down a bit now with this, with the warm grey 3, and I'm just pulling out from the darker area and just lightening it off as we go into the light area. Again, just so this looks a lot more blended. So it's like, it looks like it's blended from a lighter tone into a darker tone. And the same coming out from the head there. Okay. So just to finish that off, I'm just going to do the warm grey 5. Now I'm not going to put as much of this on, so I'm light pressure, but I'm not putting, I'm spacing the first strokes as such. I'm sort of spacing them out a little bit more. Okay, and then around here, same again. That's it. So that's starting to look a lot better now. So let's start on this side. So I'm going to repeat the process we did here on this side, and then we'll get on with the muzzle. And then I'm just going to fade it off from the neck here. So, like I said, we started with a warm grey 1 and a cold grey 1. Now, the reason why I use them a lot is because they neutralize each other. So you get a nice, you get a warm tone and a cool tone. and then it just becomes more neutralized. Now, I haven't got right sharp pencils because I don't really need them. So I'm actually coming from here and I'm looking at the shape of the muzzle as it comes round here. Okay, and I'm going to follow that bit there and just past it. So it's going into the muzzle as such. Okay. If you've got any dark lines, pencil lines that you don't want showing through, just rub them out as we come to them. There isn't a lot on this head, as I say, because this side is a lot darker than the other side. So it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so the warm grey one again. Coming from the top here. Around the eye. On the edge of the ear. So I'm going to come down here. And then this bit comes up here. So this side of the muzzle. Oh, there we go. Keep putting things down. I can't see where I put them. So that's where the muzzle comes to there. So obviously I'm just going to go a little bit over that. And then this goes up and around there. So it's light pressure. And this side of the head. So all that bit there has been done with a warm grey one. And then I'm just going to go over with a cool grey one. Again, light pressure, direction of the fur, and just a little bit past where we want it to go. The reason why we do that is because obviously we're using the base layer on here as well, but I don't want any, like I say, I don't want any sort of really rigid lines. We want it to look like a smooth transfer of colour. So if we go a little bit past where we want to be, we're safe there for it all looking nice and blended. Okay. So that's the warm grey and the cold grey one for now. So we've got a nice base layer over there. So you can't see it very well on here, but I can see it, and it is a difference between the paper and those colours. I'm just going to look at the time, like I did with here. I'm just going to look at the eye. Just take another quick look. So we have this darker bit here. Just make sure it comes around here, and it comes up a little bit more than what it has done there. And then it just blends into there, and then that comes down there. Okay, so I'm making sure that the eyes are staying sharp. Okay, and the pupil. Okay. All right, so that's the eye there. Just, you know, I mean, like I said, when we did the eyes, we may need to adjust them. So I keep looking and adjusting things. I mean, this looks a little bit light down there, but there you go. Look, can you see it's quite dark? You see the colours there as there should be. It's just because I've got it laid flat and I've got this light above me. Right, so we'll be sorting out the lighting over the next couple of weeks, so we will have some better lighting systems in place shortly, so that the recordings can be done a lot better. I don't think it's going to help if I have, if I have it on my board. I don't think that's going to help too much. No, it's going to make it, well, put it on there anyway. That fetches it a little bit closer to you. Okie dokie. So, as I say, taking my piece of acetate paper as such, so it's there. So now I'm just going to have a look at this dog, this side. So like this, we've got like a dark patch here. Only this time it goes right up to the side of this eye because his head's turned slightly. So this bit is sort of, his eye is going behind there. So I'm going to start with the warm grey 2. And down here, this sort of comes out to about there. And then that goes up there. So that'll stay pretty light. Okay, and then I'm coming back round here. And then this bit of the eye, it's quite dark coming down to here. Okay. And then again, light layers. And where it's darkest, I'm putting a lot more closer together strokes. And I'm not actually putting fur strokes in as such. I'm just sort of pushing the pigment into the paper. Okay, and up here. And then around the side. So always look, one of the most important things is as long as your pencil's going in the right direction, same direction as the fur and around the head. So if you see if it looks like the fur's curving a little bit, then curve it and then you will get the right effect. So that's what I'm looking at all of the time. So this curves a little bit more here. And then it leaves off there a little bit. Okay. And then here down this side of the eye, once it gets to there, that's when it starts to go in this direction here. Okay. And then that goes off. So I'm pushing the pigment there. So I'm using I'm not using an extra light pressure, but I'm not using too much pressure either. So that comes up there a little bit and then it comes round. And you can see how it curves around a little bit there and then up into there. And then that comes down there. Okay, so that's another layer on. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go in with, I'm jumping a couple. I'm going to go straight to the grey, warm grey 5. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to map in where the darkest areas are. So I'm looking from the middle here. Okay. I'm using light pressure now. And I'm doing a ragged edge here. So it's like negative. So some of the light fur off the muzzle will be going up into this darker section. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. Now it comes down here, down the side of the eye to about there. And then here we've got another dark section. So all the time I'm looking, so it's only a thin line. And I'm going to blend this in a bit just as we get. And then I've got another bit coming around here, so it raises it up a bit. And then it comes down here. And that's where it goes into the ear. Now, if I look, it finishes about here on where the nose is. So that comes down there. Okay, and then we've got the light bit of the muzzle showing there. So all this area here is going to be dark. So up here, got a bit of a lighter area there. And then here, it's going to be light here, darker here. So there's a light patch there. Comes down there. So then this comes up to about here. So I'm looking at my reference photograph all of the time. And then that comes around there. And then that comes up to where the eye is there. So that's quite dark there. Okay. And then that comes down there like that. And then this is all fairly dark. So I'm just going to put that in. It comes up here this way. And then this dark section here. So with light pressure, I'm just pushing the pigment into the paper slowly up there. Okay. Now, if you find it easier, turn your work round so you're working and pulling it down, so this would be the bottom of your work and pull it down. But because I'm doing a recording, I want you to see where the colours are going. So this then at the top of the eye comes to there. So this is where the darker sections are. So it comes up at an angle and then it comes straight there, comes around here. Okay. Now this is going to be a little bit lighter than here. This is where the darkest bit's going to be. Comes around here. That's it. Now, when we finish, this will be a lot darker here, but okay. So that comes down like that. So all of that's going to be quite dark. This is going to be the light section. Then on this side here, it's going to come. Then it comes out a little bit here. And it comes almost to the edge, this lighter area. And then we have another dark section here, which comes up to this. So that'll come down there like that. Comes like that, leaving just a very thin band of light there. And then that comes down and round. Just so, like that. Okay, so we've now got the shape mapped in of where we're going to be going with the colours. Okay, so before I do that, I'm just going to, just so that I know I've got it in, I'm going to put some of the warm grey one. Like that. I'm coming round where I know the muzzle's going to be. So it's going to come round there. And that lighter bit's going to come round here. Okay, and down there. And we have got a little bit of a darker area there, but I'm going to put me. That's it. So the fur changes direction here. It's not quite as bad as a cat's muscle and eyes and round there. That they change. Oh, they go in all sorts of different directions. But with a dog, it's quite. But it is crucial that you do go in the right direction because obviously we're trying to get this shape, get the muzzle shape right. So I'm just going to sort of extend this out a little bit. So we have started with the foundation layers or base layers here. Okay, and we're getting them in. Okay, let's get the first bit in. Go into that bit there. And then follow around with the cold grey one. So that neutralizes it. Makes it nice light. And it fills in quite a bit of the tooth of the paper so that the following layers that we do doesn't kill the tooth. It just makes it look better for when we put the darker layers on and build up the layers. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going back to my warm greys. I'm going to go start with the warm grey. We've done the warm grey 2. So let me put some of the warm grey 3 in. And I'm going to work back into this dark area because that's the area we want to get in first. So I'm looking very carefully. And as I say here, it's sort of, you've got to think of it as negative. So you're going in and pulling out some little loose hairs where the lighter section of the muzzle comes up here. Doesn't come up a lot, but comes up a little bit. And then we've got this lighter bit there. So then we've got this dark bit here. Now I'm pulling my pencil off as I come up here because obviously we're blending this into the lighter area. Okay. And then back round here. As I say, turn your board round to do it in which ways most comfortable for yourself. And then I'm just now gonna a few little bits here. So you can see the way that the hair turns, that the fur bits turn round here. This comes down his muzzle to the lighter area. What's it in the light? Okay. Pull it off when you come into the lighter areas. So you're still putting some colour in the lighter areas, but not quite as much. So you're putting less strokes placed further apart. And then come up here. And each time and each layer you're putting on, you can see it's getting darker and darker and darker, but we're also building the light layers up as best we can. But we will adjust them as well. So now I'm going to go to the warm grey 6. So this is where I am going to put this on. So I'm looking now, and I can already see here that some of this needs to go to get this shape right. Needs to be, it's not quite as dark as that, but it is more solid and darker there, and it's coming in to that bit there. There we go. That's better. Yep, that's a lot better. And then this side here now. Okay. So it comes round the eye like that. So some of the strokes I'm pushing up into the paper and some I'm fetching down. That way I get a more even look, but I'm also creating a lot more depth doing it this way. So again, as I come here where it's a little bit lighter, I just ease off on the pencil a little bit. And then as we come up here, and then so it's quite dark up to about there, and then it eases off into that lighter area. So you can see where I'm easing that colour off, but here it's a bit darker. So I'm putting the strokes closer together and just a tiny little bit more pressure. Okay, and then again, just easing it off into that lighter area so it looks a little bit more blended. And then up here, again, got quite a bit there, a tad lighter up this side, and it sort of curves that way a little bit, just here. Then comes down, and this is where it gets darker, just here. So it isn't one big dark clump here. It is quite, it's got quite a lighter. So what I'm going to do is put the biggest pressure on, not too much, but a little more pressure on where it's the darkest. And then pull off where it's just a tad lighter. Okay. And then down this side, as we come up to this ear, we'll leave a little bit of a border there where it's got that light. So we'll come into that lighter area there. And then and look for any little indentations that you can see there. There's a little bit of dark area there, then that's light. And then that starts to get lighter there. Turning it round as I go. You can see I'm turning the strokes round as I go. Comes in a little bit more there and then back out again there. So it gives you this little shape around the eye. So it's a light band around the eye and then the rest of it's quite dark. And then that bit comes down. Yeah, that's right. That works into there. Okay. And then this bit here curves around, leaving that little bit there and there. And this bit, it's quite dark as well, but lift it off as you get to the lighter area. Okay. Again, it's a little bit darker. So I'm now going to use, I'm actually going to use, because it's a warmish colour on this side, I'm actually going to put some dark sepia first before I put the black on. Okay, so we've got some warm sections here. It's a bit lighter here as well. And down. Up. It's not quite a straight line over its eye, but you can see it's again, pull off when you get to the lighter areas. And some of the darker bits come up here. And then it just gets that little bit lighter. So I'm just pulling off the pressure now. So on this layer, you should start to see the difference in where the tones change. And you get the darker areas against some lighter areas. And then we'll adjust them little bit by little bit till we get. So you can see the top bit is just slightly lighter. I'm still putting colour up there, but it's a lot lighter pressure. Same coming down here. And then this is where it starts to come round his head. And that comes up there to the top. So I've got to finish that there so you can see that it's not just a, there we go. I know it's going to be really dark there, but I'm just pushing and then releasing the pressure as I get to the lightest areas. This then is going to be really dark. Okay. I'm doing more of a dabbing and pushing motion rather than for, I mean, it's just, the Labrador is a very short haired dog. So, and looking at it, you don't see, you see more of the fur shapes coming more down the bottom, but in his face, it's more, it's the shapes and the shine where the light hits the black dog. But it has got lots of different colors in it. So if you look closely, you can see whether it's a warm black or a cold black. So this side is a bit warmer than that side, even though this is a lot, this bit's warmer and the ears are a lot cooler. So now then, what I'm going to do, I think, is just going to put a very light glaze of burnt umber using the side of the pencil and not. I'm putting this underneath the glaze because I don't want the glaze to take away the fact that it's a black dog. I don't want it to look like it's turned into suddenly a brown dog. So if I put this glaze over now, and I'm going to put the glaze on top, you should still see little bits of it. So it should still give it that. And if I need to, I can always add some more at the end. Okay, so that's there. So now I'm going to start with the black and come in. So I'm going to go where it's the darkest first. And don't forget, pull the pressure off. So it's still fairly light pressure. I'm not doing it heavy-handed. I'm not going in with it very dark. So I'll build the layers up, but I'm just looking where the dark tones are, the darkest tones, and then pulling it off into the lighter tones. So this is where you need to keep your looking at your reference. Some of the strokes I'm going and pushing in the pigment, and some of them I'm pulling it out. Okay, so now this gets almost as dark as the edge of the eye. That's where that blends in. So again, that's just layering. So this is quite dark down here. But then pull off as you come in and just do that raggedy edge there. And as I say, we can layer these up. But you see, that's the darkest bit, but it's also going to spread. I'm just adding and if you look, I'm not using because it's a short head dog. I don't tend to use because I'm not putting that much detail into the fur. I don't tend to use a very, totally sharp pencil. It is fairly blunt. Okay. It's a little bit darker up here before it gets into that right light area, but not. And then this comes down. This gets very dark again. So I'm just darkening up. There we go. Okay. And then down here in the black. So it's very light. I'm pulling the pressure off as I get to the lighter area. This is where it gets very dark, is here. This is where the shadows are from under the ears. So I'm going to pull it out from there. So I'm applying a little bit more pressure there. Being careful I don't go over the edge. And then as I come into this lighter area, just release the pressure a bit at a time. There we go. And as I say, you'll probably find it easier moving your picture around. I know I do. So it's quite difficult to do it from this position all the time. I would be moving my board around, but as I say, I'm trying to make it easier for you to see where I'm going. That's a bit lighter there, then it's really dark here. That's it. Come back down. Make sure that's all smoothed in. And then this gets a little bit so it curves around there. And then it curves out that way. From the eye, that is. Okay. And then that joins there. And it comes up here, and this is where it gets a lot darker here. And then pull it off here again as well. It gets a bit lighter up here. Okay. So can you see how the light areas are really light compared to that? And that's because we've actually, on here, like I said, we have, once you've got your darkest tone in and your mid-tones, you'll start then to see where you need to change and probably darken up the lightest areas. Okay. As you would when you're watercolor painting as well. That's the same, it's the same principle. Okay. So he's really starting to take shape now, isn't he? So I'm just going to lighten up some of these lighter areas so then I can see where I've got to go darker. And then also on this ear, I will probably have to put some, that's quite dark. So like I said, you're constantly making adjustments till you're 100% happy. And believe me, no artist is ever 100% happy, but you've got to get as happy as you can be. So that's there, that's a bit darker, but then it's lightening off a little bit. So let's see where we've got the really dark. So it's a sort of a triangular shape. And then it comes up here. Okay, and then we'll dark up there. And then we got a little bit darker here. It goes into that lighter area there. And then just around the tip of that, we've got this dark blending out into a lighter there. It's better. Right, so let's have a look. I'm going to use at the top, because it's more blue at the top, I'm going to use the Payne's Grey for this bit here, because it has got a little bit more of a bluey tinge to it. So it's a light pressure. So this is the little bit that's coming up from his forehead. And I'm actually going to put it on here as well, because it has got quite a blue tone to this. So the Payne's Greys, I mean, in watercolor, anybody that knows me will tell you, watercolor, I don't like using Payne's Grey. I'd rather mix my own grey when it comes to watercolors. But in the pencil, it has got some very good uses when you've got some grayer areas that are have got a very bluey tinge to them. So as we come up here and down here, so it continues that line on there. And got that bluey tinge there that comes out there. And it starts to come around that way a bit there. That's it. That lines that off a little bit. I'm going to put I'm going to put a little bit of indigo blue just here on the edge of this darker area and the mid-tone area. Okay. And into the darkest area, because if you look, it does saturate that black and makes it look a little bit darker. Okay. Down there. So in all the dark areas, I'm actually going to put a little bit of the dark indigo. And then again, I can see up the top here. So underneath, I'm going to put this, I'm using the side of the pencil. And I'm putting this touch of, and it comes up here a little bit, that touch of red. So it's like a purple, it just make it a purpley colour. So when I put the grey on, you will see that it turns a bit more purpley. Okay, so we've got that up at the top. It's just giving it a bit of a warm tone. So now I'm going to go to the warm grey 6. And I'm going to go over the darker areas again. And then here, I'm going to put in the lighter areas, I'm actually doing very light strokes and pulling from the dark into the light, but releasing the pressure just so that it looks a little bit more blended. So you can see there it's a lot more blended. It's not if you look, you can see how it blends in. So you've got this very dark colour here that gradually looks like it's coming in. Okay. So just as I did on this side. So this is where the mid-tone, it's not quite as black as that bit, but so this is the mid-tone. So it's not far off. So I'm coming out of the darker areas. And same down here. This little patch here isn't quite as dark. And then same up here. It's light pressure, but it's coming from the dark into this area here, which is a dark mid-tone, not a light mid-tone. And if you look at it, it's slightly lighter than that. Okay. And then I'm going to go down to the warm grey 5. And I'm going to start pulling. So this is from the darker area at the top into the very light area. So we need to make that. So we need to, what we're doing is we're actually darkening the lighter area and blending it in a little bit more. Okay, being careful around the eye because that's where it is the lightest. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the rest of it first. So this is a little bit darker here. Okay. So there we go. It's not looking quite as bright as what it was. So now I'm just going to go over with the cold grey 3. And I'm sort of shading it a little, I'm sort of glazing it more than, because this is going to add, like I said, I put a little bit of a warm tint of the red violet on there, but it doesn't want to look red. It just wants to have that. So it's a grey. Okay, and then round here, I'm just gonna. So now we're gonna get. I'm gonna use the what I call the raven black, and where it's really really black. So coming out of this ear, and then up into this area here. I'm just gonna. It's got numerous tones in there, so I'm just flicking it up basically, just so it looks more blended. Going into the and lift the pressure into the lighter toned areas. Okay, and then pulling it and darkening it up right next to the ear because that's where the darkest shadow is. So that you're not going to see much detail at all in there. So it's going to look quite shaded, just shaded, dark. Okay. And then back up here. And again, and then pull it down just slightly and round and into the lighter areas. Okay. Then I'm gonna sort of some Mars black. This is black with a little bit of a red tinge. Again, it's quite a nice dark. It does help to darken up the colour there, the saturation of the colour. Okay. Lift it off as you come into the lighter sections. And as you come to the top. Oh, this one, this is a light fast. So it's similar to a polychromos. It's an oily based colour pencil, but it is quite soft as well. But the Mars Black, the one thing I do like about the light fast is that they do have sort of various toned ones of white and of the darker colours. So if it's a nice warm black, you can actually just put this over the top and it does make it look nice and got like a reddy tinge to it. So it does warm the black up a little bit. So as I'm coming out of that, I'm back into the light area there. Okay. And just a bit more of this Raven Derwent black or your polychromos. If you've only got polychromos, it doesn't matter. Just means you put a few more layers on. Okay. So that looks nice and blended. And as I say, you might see the red a little bit more on the screen than what I do here. But you can see how much darker it is when I tilt it up. Do you know what I mean? It's the lighting in here. It's terrible. This has different glows on it. So that's one colour. So that's more of a, so we could leave it on that one. That's not bad because you can see where the darker areas are just here. But then as it comes out, you can see that they do lighten off a little bit. I mean, not quite that much. So that one wants to be that little touch darker. So I'm coming out of the black area into the lighter area and then releasing as we come into the even lighter area. And then if I want to darken it up, I just put a little bit more pressure on. Okay, so we'll leave that for now. So now we're going to come down onto this muzzle area. So the muzzle in general is a little bit lighter. And it's going to be a little bit cooler looking because obviously, let's have a look. It's more neutral, should I say, than cooler or warmer. But right, let's first of all get rid of some of the pencil marks. You don't have to rub them right off. You can just lighten them. So you can still actually see them, but they're not in your face because obviously if you don't want to see the pencil when you've finished, then remove it. So first of all, I'm just going to map in. I'm using I'm going to use a warm grey 6. And I'm just going to map in. So we've got this extra bit of dark area here. It comes up and round there, around his mouth. And then this is going to be a lot darker around here. So I can actually line it with this pencil because, so it's like redrawing over because obviously we're going to have some dark patches underneath, but I'm only going to I'm doing a broken line because I don't want it. We will have some like bits of fur coming over, and then that comes up there like that. And then we've got, so this section will come down to about there to there. So again, that's just a broken section. And that bit there, I'm just going to mark some directions in. So that goes there, and then it sort of comes round that way there. And then round to that bit there. Okay, and then we've got just a slightly bit of a darker area. Well, it's a mid-tone area there. So I'll just mark that in. And then around here, that's again, I'll do a broken line. So we've got that bit there. That's it. And that comes up into sort of there. Okay, so I've just put some broken lines in, which will guide me. But I've used one of the colour pencils, so that's easier. I'm not going to get it. If it was graphite, then yes, it'd blend. You know, you'd put your colour pencil on and it'd smudge it. But if you're using a colour pencil, that makes it that little bit easier. So first of all, once again, I'm going to use the warm grey one. And I'm actually going to go all over with this. So this one's quite blunt now, but and using the direction of form. So I've put some lines in so you can see where we're going. And then this turns right down again here because this is his mouth. And then it comes up to there. And then it comes out that way. So if you look, it comes out that way. So it's more horizontal there. So it's like a clock. If you look at a clock face, it goes dirt, 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 and then back up there and round there. So it's like a clock face, really. It's following that direction. Okay. And then the same from this side. Okay. And then under here we have got where that's darker there. And then it comes to where that's a little bit lighter. And here we've got the darker bit there. That's the curling round. Okay. So we've got him drawn in roughly. And I use a dark sepia, or you could use a brown or a grey. I mean, sorry, I used a warm grey 6 just to mark these areas in. So it's a lot lighter. If you look at him, he's a lot lighter. If you plot where the lightest areas are there, he's got this light coming down here. Same on that side. Then this is more of a mid-tone. And then we've got this bit here that's a mid-tone. It's got a little bit of a darker tone inside. And then it blends back out into the light tone. So I'm going to use a warm grey 3. I'm going to start with that. So I'm using light pressure. I'm not putting a lot of detail in here, so I'm using a more of a shading motion. So again, I'm doing like a clock face. Round like that. But small layers, light layers. Round. Right, let me have a look at that. What's that? A little bit yeah. Let's rub that off there. That's better. So the warm grey 3 again. And around here. Down here, down to about that middle again. So where the middle of the nose is, you can continue that down there. And that's where that's going to come. And then the further out you get, come round. Using the clock face again. Put it a lighter pressure where the light area is, and then go a bit darker as you go into this darker tone here. And then that sort of comes up here and round there. And then up and then round. It comes like that. And then down here, that's the same. It's like a clock face comes out that way. Around there. Okay, so that's the basics of him in. Okay, so I'm now going to use I'm actually going to use the Payne's Grey again. Because here we've got this. So we have that light. This is the light bit coming out of the nose. So we've got to make sure we keep that quite bright. So I'm looking at the little shapes around it. And then we've got this sort of a bit of a mid-tone, a darker mid-tone coming down here. So that comes in there a little bit. And then this bit comes around the nose here. And down the side of the nose, that gives it a bit more shape there, like that. Okay. Like that. And if we look down here, we've got it's a darker area. Down here. Keep pulling it down. Okay. And dark areas on this edge. But there, it's quite dark. Darker there. And then here is where it starts to, so it comes around here a little bit. And then this sort of comes up and it's a little bit darker. It's lighter here, then it starts to get darker as it comes up. So as it gets this lighter edge here, it's dark. Okay. Around here is a little bit darker here. So, okay, so I mark the areas in what's going to be dark, light, etc. This here is going to be really dark. Now we may try and use the blade here at the end, but we just need to get this. We'll do a jagged edge because there is a little bit of light fur coming over. And then there's a bit of light area, and then this is a bit darker here. So let's just mark them in first. Okay, and then this bit is the flap that comes around. So that's quite dark there. Then we've got some darker area here. Comes up there. And then this bit here is also, this is where the flap comes. Down that side. Okay. There we go. So we're starting to build it up again. So now I'm going to go with, I'm actually going to go with the dark sepia. And in this darker area, I'm actually going to okay, so Okay. It's quite mid-toned up here. And then as it comes here, it gets a little bit lighter. So I'm just going to lighten that off there. Into the lighter area, which then comes back into a slightly darker area up there. Okay, and then there, and then up here a little bit. That's it. A bit. Around like that, and then just so you can see some very, very subtle light areas there. This is the biggest part of the round area, that lighter area. So this is quite dark here. So you can sort of make that a little bit darker like that. And then we know where. So that comes down and round there. So that can come like that. So this is slightly lighter than this darker section, but it's still a dark mid-tone. This section here. And it gets a bit darker here. So that's, if you look at it, that, the shape actually goes like that. And then it comes over here. That's it. So it's sort of, and then it comes around into this bit here. But here is where it's a lot darker. And then it starts to get lighter here. That, okay. And then here starts to get a bit lighter. I'm using very light strokes here. It's lighter there. Oh, this is lighter. And again, like the face clock. They move your board around because you might find this a lot easier doing it that way. And the fur on here is very short. So make sure you don't actually make it look like fur. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to the warm grey 6. And I can state here that's more or less, I've got to look at that as a straight. It's quite vertical up to there. So this bit here needs to be a lot darker. That's it. And then that round there. And we've got a bit of a darker tone here. And then this is darker here. And then it goes into a lighter section there. So this is a mid-tone. Down here. And then it lightens off here. Okay. Then here, little bit there. Then it's sort of there, there. Just marking out all these little markings and kinks and shapes. Okay. So most of this inside here is a mid-tone, but it's got some lightish areas in it. And just lay off as we come out. This bit's a lot darker down there. Okay. That lightens off a bit, and then this is the darker bit that comes up to there, and then that lightens off there. Okay. There we go. You can see now how it's building up, how the dog is actually building up. So I'm going to start going down now and getting these. So this is the warm grey 2. It's going in the light. So I'm going to go over even the darker areas. I'm just going to go over that with that. This is the lighter tone. Okay, so it's not as light as these at all. It is a little bit darker tone. So I'm literally going to go over with this colour to start with. Okay, so again, I'm shading. Okay. So you can see now how these bits are going to work out. So I meant to put some of that in there. Okay. So I'm going to go back to my black polychromos, and where it is darker, I'm actually going to put that in. So I'm sort of using small strokes, pushing it or dragging it into the tone, and then pulling and lightening off as we go a bit lighter. So that will go into the very light tone there. So you can see how it's a gradual pull it up a bit. You can see it a bit more there. You can see how it's a gradual tone. So it is all about learning about the pressure of your pencil. So if you hold your pencil further back, there's only a certain amount of pressure that you can put through it. So that's actually better, because then obviously you may have to put more layers in, but at least it's only going to let you put a certain amount of pressure through. So I've got that line down here, a bit of a darkish line down here, coming from this darker bit of the thing. And then here, we've got a darker patch, which comes right up to where this shaping is of this bit here. So even though it lightens off a little bit, they're quite dark, because what that does is that's giving that bit of a raised, and then that bit, then you pull the pressure off, comes up here and starts to come round here. So it's not quite as dark. Like that. Okay. And then that's a bit darker there. And then this bit, the dark bit here, curves that way. Okay. And then here we've got this very dark. Disappears there, like that. But even on this light section, you'll find this side just here at the top here is slightly darker than that side. And then this bit here is quite light. And same with this bit here. So and then this is where it gets darker here. And then starts to get lighter here. So again, just pull the pressure off bit by bit. And you'll see that it is, because that now is getting nearly as dark as that. Okay. And down here, I'm going to put in his mouth. I'll put in some of the negative, put some of the little. And that's the really dark shaded bit underneath. Muzzle bit there. And then that goes into a light, slightly lighter shade there. And then again. And then this bit here is the corner bit of the mouth. Okay. Quite dark there. Okay, so that's there. So now let me just that's the dark bit there. That dark section there. The dark there. This isn't much darker than what it was. Just need to smooth that out a little bit. That looks a bit smoother than what it's looking there. Okay. Then look at this bit here. So then we've got this coming out. Again, pushing and pulling back on the pigment. Around the nose. Looking very carefully where you can see a darker shade, and then because this is all mid-tone, but there's some darker mid-tone in it and some light mid-tone in it. And then here is where it gets really dark. Again, quite as dark as the blacks, but it's darkish. Okay. It's quite that mid-tone in there. Okay. And also what you'll find in here is some tiny little, very small, darker areas to be blended in. Not to be made too obvious, but they're there. And then around here, this is quite dark. That down to there. And this bit's dark, moving up into the light there. There we go. So that looks a bit too light again. So I'm actually going to darken up. So this is really dark here. No, this. So the bits that you know are really, really, really dark, you can actually darken right up now. Now, these aren't going to be black, they're just dark midtones, as I said. You know, your midtones can vary from dark to light. Okay, so that's making that look even brighter. So we've got to dull that down a little bit. And I'm going to start with the Payne's Grey. So around this light area here, I'm doing more shading than anything here because I just need to blend it in a little bit. Okay, so using a Payne's Grey. So I'm using the side of the pencil more than I am the tip. And I'm going to go over the muzzle area here. Because again, we've got varying tones here. So they need to look a little bit more blended than what they are. Again, I'll hold it up so you can see it's a lot darker than what you think. But I'm just blending, trying to blend these in a little bit more here. Now, I need to make sure that that lighter blue area or the lightest area stays really light there, because that is where the top of the nose is there. Okay. And then I'm just going to do like the clock face, just round all over here, down here. Okay, down here. And then just go that way actually. There. In there. And blend that into there a bit. Okay. There we go. So that looks a bit better. And then I'm going to go with the 1 grey 3. So now I'm going to go over, I'm putting a little bit more pressure on because I am blending the colours now as such. So I'll get a little bit more saturation of colour, but also a little bit more smoothness and a bit more blended colour. Okay. That. That round. There we go. Okay, and then I still think it needs to go a touch darker, so I'm going to go for the 1 grey 5. Light touch though. Go dark, lightish touch. So it's a glaze really. Always in the direction of the fur. But I'm using the side of the pencil just so I get that glazing look, glazed look. Right. You look, I don't know if you can see, it is a bit darker than what you're seeing on there. Okay. The nose obviously is a lot darker. I'm just darkening this darker area up here because it does come from the nose, so it is. So there's different light and dark mid-tones there. Okay, and then down here, that's quite down there. Okay, so now I'm going to try and use the ceramic blade edge because I just want to get a little bit more detail and a bit more sharpness into this nose. So if you look at a dog's nose, it's got like little circles on it. So if you use the edge of the blade and try in the darker areas just to, so you want to be careful you don't damage the paper, but if you just do some, what I call scrumbling, I call it. So I'm just going to scrumble this in the light and dark areas, at the top of the nose more than anywhere, where you can see. And then obviously down here as well, there's a few bits of light coming down. So if you just use your blade a little bit on there, that makes them stand out a little bit more. And then where we put these little marks here in his thing, we will be taking some off in a bit. That one we can take. So where we did this, oh, this little tuft of hair here on his nose end, he's actually got a hair coming from there. Let me just put some of these. So, you know, I said from his coming up onto his top face fur, we've got some lighter bits. So just very, very, very lightly and subtly bring in some of those fur lines there, some of those hairlines. Got a little bit of light, more light coming through there. So just use the blade to create that. If you've lost any of your highlights as well, just use your blade gently to fetch those back in. So we have got, so we put that one in. Let me just turn this round so it's coming from here. Just round there like that. So you can see it just coming into that black fur there. It's just got a little, it's only a little hair there. I don't think you can see it on there. Okay. Just going to go over again. Just to blend where I've used the knife. And also blend some of these fur lines together again where we've got the light and the dark blending, just so that they look a little bit more blended. Okay. And then I'm just going to darken up some of these sections of the nose. Because you do lose a little bit of the saturation of the nose, you know, when you're, or any dark, you know, any patches of the black that you're using on his nose, you will lose some of them. And same on the eyes. So if you just reintroduce them and just keep that sharp and crispness there. Right, so let me get rid of some of these lines under here. I'll lighten them up just slightly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to put the back on this dog. I'm just going to actually feather this down a little bit. So when we come to this, we've got quite a lot of light here on this side. So that's where we want the pencil marks to be the lightest. So if we can, okay. So that's going to be quite cool. So I'm actually just going to use the cool grey down here as a base layer. Cold grey one, sorry. And then I'm just going to fade it off there. Now the fur, it comes down there a bit. It comes downwards, and then if you look at it, some of it goes off that way. I'll blend these lines a little bit more in a bit. So some of it goes that way, and then some of it comes round this way. Okay. And then here it sort of goes around like that. So it's a bit of an S shape. There. Okay. And then here, that curls right round there. It's top. And then as it comes down here, it starts to come down that way. And then sort of feather that off. And then we've got this bit in the middle here, which is going to be dark. And then that bit there comes down here again. Okay. So for the rest of it, because it's quite dark, I'm just going to use the warm grey 2. I'm actually going to fill in the rest of it. Now, underneath here, his fur sort of comes that. And then on that side, sort of like that, comes round. And then you've got another bit coming down here. And then that goes into like his shoulder bit. A bit more fur here. This is fairly, bit comes round here. Starts to just so we've got a few fair directions there, and then down here we're just going to fade this off. So I'm just using the side of the pencil, and I'm just going to do that. So I've got a space here at the bottom. Okay. Okay, so let's start darkening some of it. Before we do that, though, if you look at your reference, if you look, you've got quite a bit of blue. So I'm using sky blue, which is the 146 polychromos. And I'm actually just going to put some of this light blue in here. Now it comes mainly down here, like that, and round. So it's mainly in this little area here. And then that rest of that starts to get a little bit darker. There's a little bit on the edge there. And the rest of it sort of could put in a little bit of the indigo, which is a bit darker blue there. Okay, so that's just reminding us which direction the fur's going in. And then here is where it starts to shape and go into other that, and then that fades off and starts to go into the darker fur there. So this is where you will see most of the detail in the back or in down the neck of the hair. Okay, so now let's start to darken some of this up. So I'm going to use the I'll start with a paint grey on this side. So I've got a little bit of coming down there. That starts to go into the Payne's grey. And then here we've got little bits of it mixed in with that light blue. And then it starts to come out here into a dark shade. Okay. And then here, this is where it comes round, and this is going into the dark colour. Okay. Like that. So I'm going to use where's the cold grey gone? I've got a warm grey 6 here. So we have, so in these bits of these, because I said this has got quite a bit, it's got more detail in it, this section. So we can put a little bit of detail in here. And then we can glaze back over that with a pale blue. And we'll build the covers up a bit more. Now as we come down here, this is where it starts to go into this darker colour here. Down there. Okay. So I'm actually mapping in where all the shapes are going again. We have a dark area here. And then this comes into a dark area. This bit here is not quite as dark. So I'm going to use the side of my warm grey 6. And I'm just going to put a bit of extra base layer there with that, because it's going to be quite dark, but you are going to see some difference. So you won't see all of the darkness. Again, I'm going across both ways. In the pencil. Right. And down this side, we're just going to get the dark. And that bit there, so it's going to be darkest there. And that's going to fade out into a lighter colour there. Okay. I'm not putting a lot of detail in here. I'm just sort of marking sort of dark and light layers that we're going to, dark and light areas that we're going to find here. So I'm just going to map in these darker areas first. And then we'll bit here, we'll just come around here to about there, and then it sort of comes round that way. I'm just putting in some sort of pencil marks at the moment as to where we're going to fade it off. And then down here, fade it off that way, and then fade it off that way there. Okay. So I'm going to start with a warm grey 3. I'm shading in here. And then just pull that out and just let it fall away. And then go back over the direction of which we did the curl. Just turning this round and just now darkening up and then just letting it fall away. Okay. I'm doing more of a shading motion with this than I am. But I have put the detail in there, some of the detail in, and then I will just blend it with some dark indigo. And that, and just fade that away. Dark indigo here. Fade that away. And then where the lightest bit is, I'm just going to put in more sky blue and even some got the luminance white. I'm going to put a little bit of the luminance white here. The bottom where we're fading it out completely. Okay. Okay. There we go. So look, we're sort of layering. Okay. Putting the basics in to start with. Dark colours. The other side of the neck comes in towards the chest area, so that sort of comes in. I'm constantly looking at way this fur is turning. And then just pulling it away gradually that way. So this is where the darkest bits of the dog are, because obviously this is his coat. Black coat showing now. His head will be casting a shade over the rest of his body, just the beginning of his head and his neck. So we're getting it quite dark. Okay. So you lift the pressure off in the lighter areas. I'm using the raven black around here. So again, you can see just slightly lighter areas and patches. Sort of like here. And slightly lighter patches around there. Yeah, and now I'm just gonna these built in gradually, smooth them out. This is his neck, so it's turning in a different direction. Okay. And now I'm going to add some indigo blue because obviously I need to saturate this color a little bit more. I've got a visitor in the studio tonight. It's our whiskey. Must have just come in from outdoors. So this is just a case of layering it up a little bit and blending down. As I say, we're just trying to not, it's this part that I've been more bothered about than anything. So yeah. Sure I'm going to be able to get these, but oh, down here. Um, where's the Mars? That's the Mars black, which has got a bit of a warm tinge, red tinge to it. Add some of that to this down here. Right, so I'm just gently in some, and we've got this side, they're actually black, so a nice sharp pencil. Okay, so there we have one little Labrador, black Labrador. I'm just gonna get the white luminance better, just for some of the white whiskers, black side, black on some white on the other. And I'm actually gonna put bits of, and then to make his nose, crumble in some of this. There we go. So you got more realistic texture for his nose, okay? And a little bit more down here, scumble down there. And that's it, I think, for now. So again, if you look, it's this light. I'm going to have to get this lighting sorted out. He is darker than what you can see him. Let me just let me turn, that might be too much if I turn that off. Yeah, let me turn the other lights off and then you might be able to see it better. So there we go. Probably see him a little bit better there. We could take this a little touch darker. So let's put some more warm grey 6 on. Again, just shading it really. Around like the clock face. Better. So it's just that fraction bit darker there. And it is the bluey colour to it, the warm grey. There he is. I'll take a picture of the one I've done and put it onto Facebook, and I'll also make sure it's the picture on the video. But I hope you enjoy doing him. As I say, black is one of the hardest colours to do with the dog. But as I say, there's a lot of different ranges of colours in there, mainly greys, but also you can see purples and blues. So look very carefully, squint at your photograph and just try and get the tones right and the shapes right. And if you can succeed on doing that, then you should end up with a very nice finished black Labrador. So I'm just darkening that a little bit up, a little bit more. Shouldn't be quite as bright as that. Okay. So he's don't think I can zoom him out anymore, but try. There we go. So that's him zoomed out. Move that a bit, and then you can see him probably a bit better. Yeah, I think. You can see him as I move him up and down there. Okay. So you see he's a lot lighter here on the head, and then drops down. You see his nose, and he's quite dark, and he's dark. It's really dark as he comes down this side here, and you've got these dark parts on his side of his face, and that coming in, and just blended away. And then by adding greys, to the lighter sections, you can change the tone. And that's one of the main parts of making something look realistic, is getting the tones right and the shapes right. Okay, so good luck. I'm not going to say it's an easy one to do, but more people that I know are going to be doing it, I think will find it quite interesting, and I don't think you'll have that much of a problem. Load some of this blue in here, and just put little bits of some white in some areas. There we go. That looks a bit better, but that's where the light's hitting the dog anyway. Okay, so good luck. And I hope you have as much fun doing it as what I did. I mean, I've often done black dogs. I've got another collie to do as a commission, and I'm looking forward to getting stuck into that as well. So doing something like this helps with things like that. But black Labradors I love. I've done a red fox Labrador, which is gone. That's been sold. I'm going to be doing a golden Labrador and a chocolate Labrador as well. So you'll probably see them on my site. I'm also going to be doing some watercolors now as well. I'm going to do a couple of bird's eyes with watercolor, and give you some information, because bird's eyes are quite interesting. They're different. Every bird's got a different, and the colors can be quite interesting. So I will be doing some watercolor on the site as well, and I'll also be doing some botanicals. So and I will keep doing pencils. So if there's anything in particular you'd like me to do, just drop me a line, and then we can have a look at doing something that you know you want to do and that you're interested in. Okay, so I'd just like to hear your comments, and if you want to, and you can upload your picture, your finished pictures, do so. If not, just put them on my Facebook page. I'll have a look at them for you, and give you any more tips that I can come across. Okay, so enjoy and good luck. Not that I think you'll need it, but I hope you thoroughly enjoy the project. Thank you very much. Good night.